Hello and welcome to my lab. I've had this oven here operational for quite a while now, and I actually have some uses for it, so that means I'm going to need to build a rack in here. So I'll go ahead and take you along my process for designing and building something with scrap steel. As with every good design, it all starts in CAD. So what I do is I kind of rough in what I want it to look like in the context of what scrap I have. And then the rest I just know that I'm going to need to get from my local steel place. So let's go through it here. The bottom plate here is going to be the mounting point, as well as it's there to absorb the long wave radiation off of the heating coil. Because whatever that long wave radiation hits directly from the heating coil, whatever that hits is going to get much hotter than the ambient temperature in the oven, which of course just ruins the whole point of the oven. So I actually have some plate over in my scrap pile, so that I can already plan on using for that. So I know the dimensions, the thickness and everything on that. But I know I want something like pipe or angle, preferably angle, for the vertical pieces here. And I don't have enough of that to actually build this. So what I do is just kind of put in some generic numbers for the thickness and the size of the angle iron, and then when I'm at the steel place, I'll find what is kind of close to that, or whatever I can get really, and then I can come back and modify the drawing to fit that before we actually go build the thing. And so yeah, this is just these verticals. I'll use the same angle iron up here to create horizontal pieces, and there's an eye bolt up here, which I'm just going to order from McMaster-Carr because that's really easy to do. So the overall idea here is that we've got a couple of rack holding spots where I can, I'll have to build some racks to put on there. Most of the time I'll probably be using this hook if I'm powder coating some large part or something. So I can use a piece of wire to wire up whatever part it is. I'll hang it and paint it or powder coat it, and then I can just take that hook directly and put it on this eye bolt here, and then we'll be good to go. So then next I will go ahead and make some drawings of just the parts that I actually need to get from the steel place. So I'll just go ahead and make notes of the dimensions of one piece and how many pieces I need, and then I'll write the total number in millimeters of how much of that particular type of steel I need. Then I just go ahead and print that out and take it to the steel place. So let's go. Okay, I've printed out my paper here, and we're here at Grand Rapids Central Steel, and you can see that they have all kinds of plates and pretty much everything you can imagine. The trick is just to sort through it all and try to find what you need. So let's just get started then. The size of this one here is just barely enough in its cross section, but not quite long enough. So you can see right here I need a little over 3 meters of bar in order to make the rack holders, or the tray holders in the rack. These are a bit thinner than I was thinking, but these could probably be used, and there's plenty of it there. That's probably a 12-foot piece, yeah. Okay, I'll probably come back to this. They're a little bit skinny. Yeah, that'd probably work. These are a bit larger than I was thinking. I was looking for 26 millimeters, or at least that's what I had before. And this is 38 millimeters across. Yeah, I think I could make some changes to the design to make that work. They're definitely plenty long. Okay, so we'll go ahead and use this and that smaller bar I found earlier. And the people that work here, you can just walk up to them and ask them to cut this, because I think this is, yeah, it looks like it's a 12-foot piece, so we can't obviously carry that. So I can actually ask them to cut this large enough that we can stick it in the car. So I'll go ahead and ask him to cut this, 6 pieces of this, right? Yep, 6 pieces of this that are about 1 meter long. I'll go a little over so I can always clean up the edges.
Anything else?
There's just one more thing. Let's see. I just need this small enough. Yeah, that's small enough to fit in the car, and I'll take all of it.
There's 3 of them there. You see that, though, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
So pretty much just half.
We're probably gonna have to cut it in 3s. I don't think I can fit half that in there.
Okay.
Hello. Yep, 33.5 pounds used.
All right.
23 bucks for this. Not bad. Let's go. Okay, there's only 2 things we need to update in the CAD here. We've got these angle iron pieces, which are not what we initially designed, and also these crossbar pieces, which are a little bit different. So first, we will go in and define the vertical angle iron pieces. The way I've got this defined is that I've got one defined here, and then those are copied across. So if I fix this one here, then we'll have them all fixed. So instead of having the angle iron stop at the edge here, I'm going to have it actually hang over because I don't want to reduce the amount of the actual usable space between the bars here. So what I can do is remove this constraint here and this constraint here. Now I can actually move it wherever I like. Now I think what would be nice is if we make it the same distance away from this hole as the edge is. You'll see what I'm saying. So I'll make some construction lines here and also to the angle iron itself. Now I can set these equal. There we go. So now when we change the dimension here for the angle iron, which is now 39, it'll just hang out further rather than pushing into the center and reducing the total usable space in the oven, which is kind of nice. This will make it stronger anyway, or more rigid, I should say. Okay, so it's still 3 millimeters here, so we're good on that measurement. All right, so let's just hit OK on this and see what else breaks. Now, if you do a really thorough job, a lot of times you can modify something like that without breaking anything, but here clearly we broke some things. So we can just keep going down the list and fixing what we need to fix. If this were a big design, what I would do is actually create some variables up here that would define the angle iron, and then if you do it just right, you can change those variables up here and it'll just run all the way down and fix everything. But here there's really not enough there to bother doing that. Okay, so the problem we had here was that it did not update the face in this sketch. So the sketch face in here was still back a ways this direction. So I just updated that, and now we're good on this end. And I suspect the same problem is going to be on this extrude here. Yeah, this face did not update properly. So now that I selected that, we're good to go. Oh, I see. Okay. This line here is actually brought in from this part, which also didn't regenerate. We can fix that by going back to the sketch, clicking on this line, and hitting Use. There we go. All right, and that brought back quite a lot of the other stuff we need. Okay, so let's just keep going down this list. This sketch here needs to be 39 millimeters as well. And that's pretty good. And this is what's nice is wherever you can, don't use exact measurements or anything. So you can see here this eye bolt is actually defined to be in the center of this face rather than a certain distance from any side. So that way when we update how big everything is, it just works out because we will want this in the center no matter where that happens to be. And also this angle iron will have moved over so that we're in the center of this line as well. And that is why CAD is so powerful. So depending on how you like to work, you can just walk back and forth between the computer getting dimensions off, or you can make another set of drawings that will tell you how to build everything. It's really up to you and how easy it is to access your computer from your fabrication floor. With this one, I'll probably just use the computer because it's right next to where I build things. So let's get started. It's time to introduce you to our newest bit of equipment here. We have a bandsaw, and man, I can't even describe to you how much nicer this makes life. Instead of having to mark up every line on a piece of steel and then cutting it with an abrasive cutoff wheel, you just line it up and cut it with this. And of course we can make nice repeatable cuts because we can either use this stop up here if it's a short piece of something, or I can actually put something back here to stop, and so we can line up a piece of steel the same length every time, cut it off nice and square, and get on to welding a lot faster. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to clean up both sides here. I'm just going to take a little bit off of this end, and then I'm going to flip it around and then cut it to length, and that way I have both sides with a nice clean cut that I know will be as square as I need it to be. And then it'll be easier to weld up in the end because of that. So now I'm just going to have to get to cutting. Oh yeah, there we go. Let's see. Spot on, like half a millimeter short. We'll have to try better next time. There we go. That is the precision I like to see. Close enough. Anyway, let's move on. That is so much easier than it used to be. This frame should line up really nice. All right. Let's see, that's, yeah, that's all the straight pieces to cut. So now I just need to cut that bottom plate. So let me grab the plasma cutter. Oh, I can't see a thing with the blast shield down. All right, let's see how bad it is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, good enough. Good enough. Okay. Cool. Now I'll need to grind it. All right, we'll clean this up a bit, and then we can work on drilling the O's. Let's see. That's the thing about scrap steel, is it's always filthy. We just got to clean it up enough that it'll take the paint. Actually, you know, I think I'm going to sand this a bit. There we go. We won't have any rust issues when we go to paint now. Take this over here. Okay, you probably won't be able to see this very well, but I'm gonna stick this in there on the studs here, and then use the Sharpie to mark around them. Okay, that's not the right orientation. Okay, that's not the right orientation. As long as I get most of the circle, I can finish it when we go to the drawing board. Probably could have made this a little bit bigger. I wanted to make sure there was plenty of room for convection over here, but we're cutting it pretty close. It'll probably still work though, so let's go for it. Okay, so the placement of these isn't going to matter too much because I'm going to make the hole quite a bit larger than the bolt we're going onto, just so that putting it in there isn't a huge pain. All right, the studs are 8 millimeters, and then I'm going to try to just put a 10 millimeter hole in there so it's plenty large. So we'll start with a pilot hole. Yeah, that'll work. Nice. With the chamfer bit, you want to go a little bit slow, otherwise you'll get chatter. There we go. All right, let's go. Like a glove. All right, so I've got some nuts down here so I can adjust the level if I need to. Okay, now that that's done, let's see, there's a couple places we could go from here. I guess I'm gonna drill the other hole and then we can start welding the whole frame together. I'll probably weld the top half of the frame together first and then center it up in the oven and then weld it onto here, because those holes are not a measurement I want to go off of. That should work. Okay, let's get started with that. So this piece here is the, let's see, so if the frame's facing you, this is going to go up top, and I'll need to cut a hole right here for the eye bolt. So let's do that. Okay, here's the eye bolt, as you can see. And if I remember correctly, it's 8 millimeter as well. Yeah, 8 millimeter. Okay, so we'll leave this one tighter. 8.5, that's what we'll do. All right, that one was probably clean enough, I don't even need a chamfer. Oh yeah, there we go. All right. Nope, I do need a chamfer. It doesn't sit flat. Yep, there we go. That'll work. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and clean this stuff up off camera because that's just gonna be me sanding and that'll be boring for you. So I'm gonna clean up all of these angle pieces and then we can start laying out the frame and welding it together. Okay, so we will start with the top of the frame and work our way down because I think that'll be easiest. If you don't have 3 to 4 hands, this can be pretty tricky. Or, you know, like the proper tools. I have neither. But you just start locking down one dimension at a time, and it works out. The nice thing is, all these pieces are exactly the length we need, and square. So we can kind of utilize that. I think there's some kind of weird coating on here, but I can't be bothered to take it off because that would take a long time. All right, so I'm getting it square in this dimension now. One last chance to get it right before we lock it down with the last tack. Yeah, looks good. Looks good. Okay. So that is tacked down and looks good. This, of course, is the top of the frame. So we'll flip it around and see if we can get those vertical pieces where we want them. And this is a good time to have second thoughts about the way you're doing something. Would it be better to build it this way and work down, or from the plate up? I think I'll do it this way. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna put one in the middle of the face here, and I'm gonna have it picked up a little bit off so that it's not gonna collide with anything, and it'll hold it in place, but we'll still be able to move it around in all the dimensions here. The trick will be if I can hold it. Yeah, all right. Surprising that worked. All right. It's important to remember that this is forward. All right. Working. Well, I've made some sort of three-legged creature. You're never really pushing yourself until you get halfway into a project and think, how am I going to pull this off? Okay, I'm going to define this one as close enough. And then we'll work the way around. Ooh, surprisingly good. Well, I better lock that down. Yeah, I made that plate a little bit too small. Now I can't. All the beams go in just a little bit. Oh well. It won't affect the functionality much. Yep, that's going to be good enough to hold things in the oven. I can visually see it out of square, but that's to be expected doing it by hand and as quickly as I did. So we're good to go. Now I just need to weld this up, and then I will add the bars that'll hold the trays that I'll make later. Okay, so for the rack holders, I'll just put this up on the table. And then we should be able to, let's see, yeah, that's the right way. Okay. Should be able to take the measurements from there. Okay, I like that placement. I'm only going to weld on this side because I actually want to ride the racks on this side here. Notice how welding on welding on the bottom side has actually pulled the top side out, because as the molten metal is cooling, it contracts, and so they've pulled around like this, which is fine in this application because these bars are skinnier than I wanted in the first place anyway, but you normally have to watch out for that. Okay, I'll repeat that with the other side. All right, I've finished the other side of the rack, and I'm going to change out what was going to be these little nubs to be the backstops for the tray to complete bars to add a little bit of rigidity. So these will go across here, and that way when you're sliding in the trays, this is going to stop it from just going all the way through and hitting the insulation. All right, so that is all welded together. This is the complete frame. So now I'm just gonna scrub it down a bit. And then I've got this high temperature enamel that I bought from McMaster Car. So we'll see how well that does. Yep, so we'll come back to it when it's painted. Okay, looks like the paint here is dry to the touch. So looks good. The can says that once it's dry, we need to bring it up to temperature 2 or 3 times to give it some heat cycles to finish curing. And we always do what the can says to do, so we're going to do that. It also says it'll generate some smoke. So I've brought the oven out here, and I'll just go ahead and put it in there, and then we can give it its heat cycles. So let's do that. All right, so we'll close that, turn on the oven. Oh, it's gonna be hard to see the display here. Yeah, it's funny, we built this touchscreen, and at the time that seemed like one of the best options for us, but now they've just come out with several other little tablets that have all the connections that we need for a little bit less than we spent trying to build this thing, so this is now quite obsolete. But it does work, so it's nice. Well, you're not going to be able to see this at all, but I'll quickly set up a little ramp. Yeah, I'll set it up to go to 300 degrees Celsius. All right, 1 hour to get to 300 degrees, and then 10 minutes at 300 degrees. That looks good enough. Well, it'll probably take less energy to get it up to temperature out here. All right, now we just have to wait. Boom, time travel. It's done. I've moved it back inside, and the 3 cycles are complete, and it only made a little bit of smoke, so it's not that big a deal. And I've already stuck the eye bolt in here and bolted that on, and my floor is not level. So now we'll be able to make some trays whenever I need them. I'll just make them when I need them. That can slide in here, or other things that can just hang off of them. If I wanted to like powder coat hundreds of little parts, then I could just make little bars that go across and hang a bunch of them on that bar, coat them all at once, and then just put them in there for the powder coating. So now let's go ahead and actually test it. This part here, I've been meaning to powder coat for quite a while. In fact, I've had it for so long now that you can see it's just been getting some rust on it. So I'll clean that up and prep it for powder coat, and we'll stick it in there and see how it does. Okay, I've got everything set up here. So it's just hanging off the ladder here, and I've got my power hooked up to that. And in case you're not aware of how powder coating works, these particles are actually going to be charged so that they'll be electrically attracted to the part. And I just have to mist a cloud around the part, and once the particles are on there, then we bake it in the oven to cure the plastic. And that's basically powder coating. So let's get to it. There we go. That looks pretty good. So now we'll preheat the oven and then stick this on the eye bolt in the oven and just finish it up from there. Okay, the cycle just completed here, so then we just crack the door, and I like to take a little peek. Oh yeah, it looks like it worked. See if you can see in there. Oh yes. Okay, so I'm gonna just leave the door kind of cracked open to cool it off in there, but not too quick. And we'll just come back in a sec when it's cooled down. Okay, it's been going for a while, so let's see what we got. Oh yeah. I should have put it a little higher up, but I was trying to work a little too quickly putting that thing in. Surprisingly, it didn't seem to hurt anything the way I put it in. Need to get better and quicker at that. So now when that cools off completely, then I can go ahead and stick that on the wall. All right, looks good. It's all cooler to the touch. Yeah, all right, that looks nice. The angle grinders go here when I eventually have more than one of them. So that's that. Now we can powder coat all kinds of things that we make and use the oven for general annealing and other scientific purposes as well. And this looks nice here. This will organize things quite well. So with all that, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.